For this session, we'll be having with us Dr. Nitin Karir, former Chief Secretary of Maharashtra, Mr. Unmesh Wagh, Chairman, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority, Mr. Mahesh Bhagwat, Additional Director General of Police, Telangana State. The moderator for the session will be Mr. Prashant Girbane, Director General, Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture. And the session will be chaired by Dr. Sandeep Vaslekar, President, Strategic Foresight Group, Mumbai. I request all panelists to kindly join us on the dais. Can we have you on the dais, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause to all our speaker of this great session which is happening here, Dr. Nitin Karir, former Chief Secretary of Maharashtra, Mr. Mahesh Bhagwat, Additional Director General of Police, Telangana State, Mr. Unmesh Wagh, who is the Chairman of Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority and the new port, Badwan, which is coming near Palghar, and the great Sandeep Vaslekar, sir. And I request our moderator, Prashant ji. So please welcome the moderator of this session, Director General of MCCIA, Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, Prashant Girbane. And I request Prashant ji to continue the dialogue. And I request Prashant ji to introduce all the speakers. And sir, we are really looking forward to a great discussion here. Thank you very much.
सर्वप्रथम आपल्या सर्वांचं स्वागत आहे आणि आयोजकांनी आम्हाला आमंत्रित केल्याबद्दल त्यांचे खूप खूप आभार. First of all, welcome to each and every one of you. And we must thank the organizers for inviting all of us. As advised by the senior-most colleagues on the panel, I must take very little time for the introduction and lot more time they would like to put on content so that we are able to do a lot more of a dialogue and conversation. On the panel, starting from my right, we have Dr. Sandeep Vaslekar ji. None of them require introduction, and hence I won't make introduction. I won't do the other way around, saying none of them require introduction and then make the introduction. His expertise on strategy is something, international strategy, you all are aware of. Dr. Nitin Karir, who was retired as Chief Secretary of Maharashtra. You have Shri Mahesh Bhagwat ji, who is Additional DGP in Government of Telangana, CP in Hyderabad. All of you have read about these individuals, and hence we don't need to. Unmesh Wagh ji, who is looking at the nation's biggest port and the one that's coming up again, so Chairman JNPA. So this is where we're going to stop the introduction and we're going to straight launch to the topic. So looking at the building a supportive ecosystem, this is Entrepreneur's Conclave. How many of your entrepreneurs are running business? Just raise a hand, please, so that we get a handle for all the speakers. Thank you. So broadly, these are the entrepreneurs who would be interested in economy, who would be interested in jobs, who would be interested in markets. So a couple of things. I'm going to take about 5 minutes to introduce the topic. Then we would head to each of the panelists and we would take their perspectives on some of the questions. They have advised that in the last 10 minutes, we would be able to take some questions from the audience as well. If you have the questions, and if you're able to write down, and some of the volunteers could collect best. If not, we'll try to see how can we pass on the mic. But that we'll get to in the last 10 odd minutes. So you can think about the questions that you have. So here is the thing, right? The first 5 minutes could be a bit boring. I promise you next 55 minutes are very exciting because I'm speaking in the first 5 minutes. Public policy. So how many of you studied economics in one way or another way? Oh, all right. Okay, I'll be careful. So public policy is all about looking at the market failures and ensuring that if there is a market failure, म्हणजे सर्व काही गुण्यागोविंदानं चालत असेल तर काहीच करू नये सरकारने. जिथं चालत नसेल तिथं इंटरव्हीन करावं. If it's all working fine, then government should be out of it. One theory says, right? And if not, then the government should intervene with a public policy. Of course, it's very different for different governments depending on how developed you are. A developing country requires a lot more of a public intervention as against a very developed economy. And there are multiple areas because unless there's a public intervention, a private entity, including all of you and me, would not have an incentive to create a road between Darbhanga and another city in Bihar, or to provide electricity connection to some villages, or to create another airport, right? I know we are in Pune, but so to do all of this, we require a public policy or government interventions. Now here is the thing, right? There are government interventions of all kinds. Some have worked, some haven't worked, and they're very impactful. When I and you do business, we create jobs, we create demand, we meet demand by creating supply. But when a public policy is created that has an implication for creating hundreds of thousands of jobs, for ensuring that the economy is boosted, for ensuring that the livelihood of all of us is uplifted, and for ensuring that we have a lot more opportunities for the economic growth and your enterprises. Take a couple of examples. A small little example and then the big example. Government of Maharashtra has a policy among many policies to help startups by giving them contracts of government orders itself. It was about worth 15 lakh, maybe it's increased now. And about 25 of them got it 5 years ago, and I'm sure that has increased over a period of time. Straight for the entrepreneurs, what you can do. There was a policy on fund of fund. I know at least few dozen defense manufacturer startups in Pune who have benefited from that scheme of government of Maharashtra. Straight for the entrepreneur, what it would mean. But everything need not be what's coming to you in terms of money or what's relevant to you only as a startup. As the topic of the discussion says, there's also some enabling environment. When GST was launched, it took about 14, 15 years to make it, by the way. When GST was eventually launched, it increased the GDP of the nation by whatever basis points that the economists could argue and counter-argue about, but it certainly increased the GDP of the nation. When we have a policy that invites the investments, we have many more possibilities for you all getting capital, cheaper capital as against your father's generation or mother's generation that you would know of, and hence we all are enabled. So that's the power of the public policy. It's not as if मेरा government से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है, मैं अपना धंधा कर रहा हूँ, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? बहुत कुछ लेना देना है, क्योंकि many of these things that are happening there have a direct or indirect impact on us, lot much direct impact on all of us in enabling the growth. No wonder we are one of the top 3 in the world when it comes to the startup economy. Now, there is a whole lot to talk about policy, but I should stop there. And as I had promised you, the next 55 minutes will be a lot more exciting, and I should get to the second part of that, which is the exciting part of it. I'll start with Dr. Karir, and we'll start with some generic questions, and then we'll get to very specific. Because on this panel, we have somebody who has looked at the state's policy from right at the top. That's Dr. Karir as the former chief secretary, and before that, multiple roles. We have somebody who has looked at the law and order of a state, or is looking at it, continuing to looking at it, and that's Maheshji. And then we have Unmeshji, who is looking at the infrastructure that is enabling all of this. And then we have Sandeepji, who would look at not just national but international perspective as well. So we have a very nicely set up panel here, and we're going to start with Nitinji. So the first question, if I look at it, what are the couple of examples that you could bring to table wherein a policy that you worked on or your colleagues worked on had significant impact on either directly or indirectly on entrepreneurship or businesses? Over to you.
Good morning, and a very warm welcome to all of you, startups, entrepreneurs, all the people who have gathered here. It's nice to see a hall so packed, packed not only with people, but with enthusiasm. So nice to be here, nice to be back in Pune, to have some sort of a communication with all of you. So just to give you a perspective on policy, I want to state the most obvious thing, which is that policies are important. I mean, the most important thing that a government can do in terms of economic growth, or in terms of social development, or in terms of any fulfilling any objective of the government, the most important thing that the government can do is to formulate a good policy. All organizations, including government, work on policy and procedures. Policy is the larger direction that has been set by the government, and procedures are the day-to-day implementation part which enable the implementation of those policies. In government, I mean, so the policy is about direction, procedure is essentially about speed. A lot of people confuse the two and expect the government to show speed. Government, considering the size of the government, you know, it's like expecting a rather large elephant to run, and that can be pretty frightening. If you even look at an elephant running, it can be pretty frightening. It's not a great sight. So essentially, what should one expect from government is a policy, is the direction. And then the procedural part is the simpler part, which can then be, which people can work on, which, you know, which can incrementally change. Stuff like that can keep on happening. And speed, if the direction goes wrong, going at a high speed is not going to help anybody. If the direction is right, it doesn't matter whether we reach that point in 3 years or 5 years or 10. I mean, it matters maybe in the, it possibly does matter, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the direction. If the direction is right, eventually we will all arrive as a nation, we will arrive at the destination that we all think is important for us. So policy is important. A clear example of policies that work is the industrial policy of Maharashtra, the original industrial policy of Maharashtra. And what does that policy say? It says simply two things. One, that we will provide infrastructure in designated locations, and we will provide plots where the infrastructure is provided up to the plot in terms of road, electricity, water, things like that. So that's one, so that's the MIDC model, the Industrial Development Corporation, the MIDC Industrial Estate Model, which is the essence of the Maharashtra industrial policy, which has then been subsequently replicated in a number of states. And Anand was to be here. We would have heard how Tamil Nadu has tweaked this and come up with their own model, and how successfully it is working in Tamil Nadu. So that would have been another very interesting perspective for us. So that was one big essence of the Maharashtra industrial policy. The other essence of the Maharashtra industrial policy was in terms of giving incentives, that whatever tax comes from the industry, the government would write off this tax for the first 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, depending on the type of industry, and that income would accrue back to the industry, so that the industry becomes viable, and 10 years after that or 8 years after that, the tax keeps on coming to the government. These were very, very sound policies. They worked very well because they were clearly stated, simply worded, and easy to implement policies. The importance of a good policy, as I said, is to have the right direction. More importantly, also to provide a level playing field. Whether I want to set up an industry or you want to set up an industry, it does not matter. Everybody gets the same treatment. And that's, I think, the most important thing that the Maharashtra industrial policy did earlier on, before we started giving special treatment to special industry, and therefore, you know, things became much more complicated. So a level playing field and the direction being right is what helped the industrial progress of Maharashtra immensely. Let's look at a policy that did not work. You know, we came up with a policy which said that registration of all documents which are sold by the developer to the first buyer would compulsorily be at the, would have to be done on the e-platform, and would happen at the builder's or developer's office. I think it's a great policy, great direction. After 2 years of policy, I believe it is still at about 10% implementation. Now, so there are, so I have just given you 2 examples of great policies, one which worked, one which did not work.
So, trying to poke into the second part of it or double click on that, why do you think it did not work? sorry, and before that, like, here is the perspective that I would like to throw. The understanding among the academicians who are practitioners is the public policy working requires three things: technical correctness of the policy, a sound policy, political support of the policy to the policy, and organizational capacity, right? Which of the three failed, or is there another perspective that we are missing? Why? The idea is to understand and learn from this, and hence the question, sir.
The political support is understood. Actually, it does not need to be stated separately. Once the policy is made, it is understood that the government has supported it. I mean, which is why the policy has passed through multiple levels of government, approved by the cabinet, and so on and so forth, sometimes discussed in the legislature and approved. So the government support is possibly understood. What goes wrong? Sometimes the direction, whether it is a sound policy, whether it is the correct policy, whether it has taken the needs of the people, or whether it has been prepared by purely administrators or purely academicians. So those are little gray areas. So a wider dialogue, just to give an example, we have prepared a draft policy, a draft design policy for the government of Maharashtra. So the idea is that everything that is done in the state, either in terms of products or in terms of services. So product meaning, let's say if we want to build a primary health center, then it would follow certain design guidelines. Services meaning whatever services are provided in that primary health center would also follow certain design guidelines. So that's, and so the draft is ready, and we could have published the draft and said that, okay, this is the policy. But we wanted a wider dialogue with the people, with the end users, and which is why it got stuck, and I mean, that dialogue hasn't happened, so the policy hasn't come up. So these are the problems. When you go for speed, sometimes you end up with a wrong policy because you have not taken all stakeholders into confidence. So that's one part. The second part, which is the third point that you raised, which is on the implementation part. So the capacity of the government machinery to actually implement that policy. If it is sound, it has support, but there is no capacity to implement. For example, if the municipal corporation decides to have a policy that it will have at least one public park in every ward, and then it says this is the stated policy, this is the money available for it, budget is provided, land is provided. The garden department of the corporation then needs to have the capacity, the physical capacity, the technical capacity, the skill set to actually provide those gardens. Now, so that involves training, and all the policies can come to naught if the person implementing it does not understand the objective. For example, we had this wonderful policy of poverty alleviation, much different from the poverty alleviation programs across the world. Across the world, essentially poverty alleviation 30, 40 years back was always in terms of giving monetary help. And the government of India felt that this is not the way. We need to provide assets to the rural families, so that those assets, so that they have a continuous source of income. Plus they have self-respect and self-confidence. Wonderful policy. Did not really succeed because the person implementing it, which is the Gram Sevak, does not understand the logic behind this. He only understands the target, that 10 cases to be sent to the bank has to sanction 5 out of them. Now, unless all sound policies will fail, unless the last person implementing it does not understand the logic. So this training, capacity building of the machinery, I think is really, really important. And there is a fourth dimension, which is, which is about the invisible things that happen. This policy that we talked about, registration, I think everybody loves the policy. It's a great policy. In all forums that we discuss with everybody, everybody says it's the best thing to happen. Citizens love it, developers love it, department loves it. Does not get implemented because the person implementing it from the developer side and the person implementing it from the registration department side, the lowest level there, from both sides, is very interested in the status quo. They are not interested in the next thing to happen, because it's going to affect them. And we have not taken enough care to involve them in this whole decision making. They have not understood what their roles are going to be in the new system. Why the original registration computerization succeeded was because across the state, and there are some officers here, across the state we went and talked to each person and got them involved. So there was ownership. Here that ownership hasn't come in.
Wow, that's a master class. There are no penalties for clapping when you want to clap. It's okay.
I should thank him for the claps. So thank.
I think this was a master class. I know that this is recorded. It will be available to understand what it means in practice when you look at a policy, right? And this will be valuable for all of you and possibly many more who couldn't attend the session today. Wonderful to hear about the importance of the wider perspectives, wider dialogue, even if it compromises speed in the near future, but in the longer future, how it helps the change management. Now, before I come to Sandeep ji and then Mahesh ji, let's go to Unmesh ji, because I know that Nitin ji talked about infrastructure, financial inclusion, and level playing field. Infrastructure is very critical. One of the best infrastructure the country has is the port, and hence we are talking to the chairperson of the JNPA. Just to give a backdrop, day before yesterday we were listening to Honorable CM, and Honorable CM mentioned the importance of JNPA. He also mentions importance of Ward 1 and how big and good it's going to be. But I'm going to stop there because that's all coming from the JNPA chairpersons. So over to you, and the question is, how is it that the infrastructure is creating an enabling and supporting environment for the entrepreneurs, for the business, and hence the employment, and hence the economy, and hence the upliftment of all of us? Over to you.
Thank you. Namaskar. Just now, most of the people raise their hand, they are entrepreneur. Some of the people sitting here, they visited JNPA also. I could see some of the faces familiar to me, those visited in JNPA. As Dr. Nitin sir spoke about the policy, I will just take a few minutes and I will only speak about my subject. The policy is very much important, as we are the generation which used to watch only Doordarshan, and I remember that serial, that Alice in Wonderland. When that Alice asked, is it a correct road? Then she got a reply, where you want to go? Then she says, I don't know. Then it hardly matters which road you take. So there the role of policy is, and that sir has just explained very nicely. As far as this port sector is concerned, the government of India always has excess capacity. When we lost Karachi, we built Kandla. We lost Chitgaon, we built Vishakhapatnam. So government of India has always excess capacity in port sector, but in recent year, the port-led industrialization, the port-led growth was major focus of the government. And it is very much important. Just to give one example, the China's success story is only because of its ports. The top 7 ports in top 10, the top 7, except one in between, they are from China. We do 20 million TEUs, total EXIM, container trade, and all the port of China individually does more than that. The Yanshan port last year did 50 million TEUs. So I'm not telling this to explain the greatness of China, but I just want to highlight that port-led industrialization and the development of port for India's growth story is essential. When in 2016, Sagarmala program was launched, it has 5 pillars. The most important thing is that out of that one pillar, enhancement of capacity, connectivity, port-led industrialization, the coastal means inland shipping, and then one social aspect, that community development, coastal community development. When this policy is launched, after that, all the chairperson of the port sat together, and then we created a policy document that is Maritime India Vision 2030. And then we enhanced it to Viksit Bharat 2047 Maritime Vision. So that was a broad policy which we laid to ourselves, which has immediate, intermittent, and long-term goals. So when JNPA was told that ease of doing business, it has 10 indices, out of that one, that is trading across border, your efficiency is the efficiency of India. And in 2014, in trading across border, we were at 164 position. So in three years, we worked very hard. We enhanced the capacity. What capacity we had in 2016, today we have double of that capacity. We added new terminals. We added one terminal which is only for the domestic transport. We connected JNPA to the national highways with dedicated roads, where it used to take 4 hours to 5 hours to cover only 30 kilometers, 8 hours. Now it takes only 30 minutes. And where an exporter from Pune, in 2-3 years back, used to plan when he has to export for 5 days in advance or 6 days in advance, he used to send his export truck containing the container. That time has been reduced by 5 days because we provided the certainty by creating infrastructure, by creating or by simplifying the processes, by digitalizing those processes, reduction in cost of doing business, time of doing business, and enhancement of ease of doing business. All these we could do by putting forward a very detailed policy, and then what is more important is the walk the talk. We create many policies, but unless and until we implement it, these policies are nothing but a paper. So we implemented that policies, and I am very happy to share that in 2018 only, from 100 plus rank, we come down to 58th rank, and today, because they stopped it, World Bank of India stopped that ranking, but if today they measure, I am very confident JNPA's trading across border will be below 10. It is easily possible. We have to do the micromanaging. We have to come down to the various processes, put those processes to study, understand the pain points, and try to address those pain points. One example I can give, and the industrialists, those visited JNPA from Pune, they are aware of it. We created, as one of the pillar of that Sagarmala, that port-led investment, port-led industrialization, we created one very good state-of-art SEZ in JNPA. And now we sold almost all the plot. We maintained the transparency. our basic price is 3 crore rupees per acre. But now, last auction, the auction went for one full day, 24 hours, and we got 8 crore per acre. That was the demand for this kind of plots. So, if we have a solid policy and we implement that within true letter and spirit, then we can achieve miracles.
Thank you, sir. I think this is wonderful, isn't it? To get to understand, I have visited the JNPA multiple times with multiple delegates from Pune and Maharashtra, just to show them around how it works. Also visited Dubai and rest of those. Today, if India's cost of logistics has come down from about 15-16% to lower double digit, that's a lot better thanks to all of this. Of course, we still have some more way to go because the countries that we are competing with are running at around 8-9%. And I'm sure that all of these efforts would go there. But before I come to Maheshji, Unmeshji, one more question. The next big thing that's happening in the country, not just in port, but the entire country, if you look at it, one of the biggest thing that's happening is Vadvan. I don't want to say anything more. We want to hear from you. What is happening and what does it mean? Over to you.
Just to give a perspective, the total 75% of our EXIM container traffic is by the western three ports, Mundra, Pipavav and JNPA. Out of that, 70% is Mundra and JNPA, and majorly gateway traffic is by JNPA. I am working at 90% of my capacity. Mundra is working at 90% of their capacity. So, of India, and that require a port urgently because both the ports will be full. So the Vadvan is planned. The Vadvan project was planned since 1991. Many times it launched and then again we backtracked. But now it becomes a reality. When we started this project 4 years back and we visited the site, we were not allowed to get down and people just asked us to go back. That was the resistance for this particular project. But we worked through the project. We understood what are their demands, why they are opposing. They have 5 concerns for that. We took care of those concerns. We shifted that project inside sea. That increased the cost by around 8,000 crores. But that eliminated all the pain points of the people. And where we were not allowed to enter also, now they are calling us and asking us to come to their villages and educate them. So the most of the opposition has been eradicated. This project, once completed, it is in 2 phases. First phase in 2029 we will complete, and second phase in 2034. It will double the India's maritime capacity. That big this project is. Once this project is completed, next 50 years we will not require any port on the western side of India. And the most important for Maharashtra, Maharashtra always had maritime dominance, it still has. And next 50 years, because of this port, we will have that dominance intact. And this project will reduce the logistic cost because Pune is also one of the logistic hub, export hub, and most of the engineering products are exported from Pune. Once this project is completed, the logistic cost, because of the connectivity and because the port is near to the international sea route, it will reduce the logistic cost at least by 20 to 25%. So this is a great boon. It will enhance the GDP of Maharashtra by 1%. It has potential to eradicate all the unemployment of Maharashtra. not only for the Palghar district, but whole Maharashtra, because 12 lakhs direct employment and 1 crore indirect employment will be generated in that area.
Just to add one small issue, so we started with a great policy saying that there has to be port-led industrial development. But because of the opposition, we said, okay, let's skip the industrial development part, let's do the port at least. So now we are doing the port. And we are saying that all other industry, wherever it is, will also benefit, and which is a great point, of course. I mean, so this is where tweaking of policy has to be done to ensure that chalo, kaam to chalu ho jaye, uske baad, so the next, but the problem there is unless the next policy comes in immediately. So JNPA will develop the port, but unless there is industrial development near the port, the fullest potential of this port is not going to be exploited. Therefore, the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation needs to now step in and needs to figure out how the industrial development is going to happen in that part, because now the soil is ready, so to say. The soil is ready, and somebody now has to come in and take the next steps. That next policy and next implementation has to happen so that this one really gives all the benefits that we are talking about.
Wow, thank you so much for connecting the dots, so to say. Before I move to Mahesh ji, couple of points, but a 30-second question, Unmesh ji. 30-second question is, how many years?
See,
approximately speaking.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very valid question. I mean, the proof of pudding is in eating. So you said how many years? We planned that first ship will come in 29-30 financial year, but we are ahead of schedule, and I am quite confident that we will complete this port 1 year before the schedule.
Wow. So here it is, we are in 2024. In 2024, Maharashtra is already getting about 29-30% of country's FDI. We are already 5th largest in merchandise export. We are the largest in Pune district, among the 800 plus districts in engineering goods export. The chamber where I worked, MCCI, it stamps about 1,600 exporters every month, every year. So we understand what they go through and how much they are benefiting. And now, by 2029, Maharashtra would be about $1 trillion. Yesterday, if you heard Dr. Waslekar, you heard that we are already about 29 GDP in the world. We would have crossed by that time about 24th, 25th. We would be one of the 29th in the world. About 29th if you compare the other countries. If we are a country as an economy, it will be 29th largest country. And by 29, if this comes, imagine how much of a leg up would we get for the further growth. But all of that's possible with a great policy, great execution that Unmesh ji and his team are doing, and then the chairman talked about. But all of this also requires an enabling environment where we all feel not just safe, but stable, because businesses, enterprises love stability. And how do we get it? If we have a good and great law and order that we can trust in, that we can believe in, and as and when the small little problems happen, they are solved rapidly, quickly. Who else can talk more about it? You all have read a lot about him. We all have also watched him on television or on the audiovisuals. But it'll be great to listen directly from Shri Mahesh Bhagwat ji, who is the additional DGP in Telangana government, CP of Hyderabad. Honored to listen to you as it was honored to listen to the other panelists. Over to you, sir.
Mahesh, just 1 minute. Just to give that perspective on where Maharashtra stands vis-a-vis the world. If we were a separate country, we would possibly be 13th. No, 13th. No. In terms, if it were a separate country,
We are $500 billion.
so it comes down to about,
We are $500 billion. Israel
it
is
will come
$500
down,
billion. We are 29th country in the world.
okay. So, but if it, the moment you get into a separate country type of business,
Economy, not country.
separate country, no, I'm okay on that. Separate country, separate economy type of sense, the movement upwards is phenomenal. So that's the perspective that I just wanted to give, because then you are not dependent on other policies, then the state has its own policies. So either it would jump about 12, 13 positions to come to about 13, 14, or if it makes wrong policies, it would go down to maybe 60, 70. That's just the perspective that I wanted to give. ते नंबर 29 एक्सप्लेन केला, पण जर हा देश असता आणि त्या देशाने त्याच्या पॉलिसीज चांगल्या केल्या तर तो जगातला 13वा 12वा देश झाला असता. चुकीच्या केल्या तर तो एकदम 50 किंवा 60वा देश होऊ शकतो. हा पॉलिसीचा फरक फक्त मला सांगायचं.
जस्ट
एक सेकंद होतं. नाही मी काल सांगितलं की तुम्ही 30वरून 13वरती जाऊ शकता, पण त्यासाठी तुम्हाला मुनशॉट चॅलेंज अप्रोच पाहिजे. बिझनेस ॲज युजलनी काही होणार नाही.
I think both connected points. A quick thing, we are talking about if it were in a theoretical sense, in an economy sense, so that this is received, recorded well. We are talking about as an economy, because panel discussions with all the dignitaries on the dais, right? There is a great perception some of us would have in what we heard. What we heard is, in a theoretical sense, it's a matter of pride, and as Maharashtra grows, so would rest of the country along with it. Now handing it over on lessons we could learn from Telangana, from Mahesh.
Good morning all. First of all, special thanks to our friend Sachin Itkar from the MEDC, then Anand Ganuji from Garja Marathi, and our Dr. Girish Desai from Pimpri Chinchwad University for arranging this 2 days program on Global Entrepreneurs Conclave in Pune. And I have seen now almost from 50 to 60 countries, participants are here. The topic given to me is about how to maintain law and order for the conducive atmosphere for infrastructure development or financial inclusion, and the role of policies. One thing you please understand, in any part of the world, unless there is a peace, there will not be development. What any entrepreneur, any investor, whoever is approaching any nation or any state, first he will study what are the 5 major pertinent issues pertaining to this particular state or that particular country. And after that only he or she will come for the investment. I will tell you about our state of United Andhra Pradesh earlier. We had a bigger problem of Naxalism, and that was a very serious problem. When we lost 2 IPS officers in Hyderabad city itself. So that much of the problem was serious, and we lost even our our state minister in the outskirts of Hyderabad city. So from that situation now, today, we have come up, in between we have seen riots, communal riots, every year almost, and the month or 2 months together, there was a curfew. No one was allowed to come out of the houses. But last now, almost after formation of Telangana, I can see now not a single riot in Telangana. And Naxalism now, thanks to the government also and thanks to our forces, so it is limited to the border of Chhattisgarh and border of Maharashtra, where we have border with the Gadchiroli district. So that has definitely created an atmosphere where now investors are coming forward. So what government has done now? So after the change of the guard, 2014 the state formed, the then government immediately, they have done the survey. What are the issues now where people are facing the issues? First, they have seen that 2009 to 14, because of the separate state agitation, the many investors, they have left the state, they have gone to either Karnataka, to Tamil Nadu, or they came here in Maharashtra. So to attract them again, the first priority was given to law and order. And in the law and order, first they have strengthened our hands. The vehicle, I will just tell you a small example. The vehicle, it is a Fortuner, which was in Chief Minister's convoy. That vehicle came to every IPS officer now. to show that you are empowered now and you have to deliver. Every police station got Innova vehicle for the mobility, and then the government has done the special survey of situation, and they found the women are not safe. They can't walk freely. What Mahatma Gandhi ji has said that at midnight, if our women are walking freely on the road, then only we can say India got the true freedom. And government has found the women's safety is a big issue. The teasing, stalking kind of things are happening. And for the IT industries, if you, the major, you know, the Hyderabad is IT hub. And for that industry, you want that from everywhere in the country or from the outsider, the women come here. Then the streets must be safe. And then government started a novel experiment called C teams. The C teams, they are in the Mapti, they move, they record the deviation with the secret cameras, and they are taking action against those people who are indulging into this kind of activity. And within a span of 4 to 5 years now, Hyderabad has become a safe city again. There was a survey of all the cities in the world in women's safety. Hyderabad top because of that reason only. So my point is, what's required is basically the government will. Second is the societal will. And third thing comes the officers, the government executives basically. Their will also is very much required. And then only this kind of safety, security, the conducive atmosphere for the enforcement will come. I will tell you another example what government has done. Government has also identified that there are some inbuilt corrupt practices in the police department, and government has initiated a unique program. They have categorized police station into 3 categories. The first category, the police station in the headquarters of capital, Hyderabad city, second at the district level, and third in the rural area, and started giving the monthly allowance to every police station SHO that this is your money, you should not ask people that I want for dead body disposal or for this purpose. So that kind of system has come with another system, the cashless, contactless enforcement, especially related to the traffic challan. The police, you know all, in the corruption hierarchy, we may be at the lower level, but the most badnaam is of course because of that 100 rupees to that, at the challan of the, at the signal or just to compromise. So traditionally it has come up, and when there was a demonetization, there was a big joke that you people are very clever, you never ask more than 100 rupees. So what government has done here, government has introduced the cashless, contactless system for the challan, the ITMS, Integrated Traffic Management System, where now we have the technology now, it's a game changer. We have a red light violation detector, where automatically the number plate will be read and challan will go to your address if it's your vehicle. Second is about the helmetless driving. The third thing is about the speed laser gun to measure the speed. Wherever the speed limit is written and you are crossing it, you will get a challan. So here all these processes, we are never involved now. In fact, in many junctions, we have withdrawn our traffic police also. So that we have seen that thing also. In fact, we have studied some best practices in other countries. We went to Singapore. We have seen in Singapore no copies there anywhere. But within 2 minutes, 5 minutes, copies coming. From where is coming? So then we realize it's a power of CCTV. So 2013, we have enforced an act by name Public Safety Enforcement Act. And by virtue of that act, every establishment now, where 100 or more than 100 employees are there or the students are there in the hostel, it's compulsory for that organization, for that establishment to fix CCTV camera and to share 15 days backup with the police on the request. And that's the reason today in Hyderabad city alone, there are 3 commissarates. One of the commissarate is Rajkonda, where I was police commissioner for 6.5 years. So this Hyderabad city alone with 3 commissarates have 11 lakh CCTV cameras today. Any crime, immediately that CCTV footage is helping to us. Our every sub-inspector of any police station, he is having the tab. He is going to the area where the crime occurred. we have done the geo-tagging of all the cameras, even individual cameras also, private cameras. Immediately there will be pop-up on the tab that which camera is facing this scene. We'll collect the CCTV footage, we'll detect that case. And that's the reason we have prevented now the chain snatching also, where the interested chain snatchers who used to come and they used to harass the women. So that problem also solved. So any problem solving, basically the policy is required, the vision is required, and the support from the government is very much required. Then only you can establish rule of law. You can maintain not only law and order, but the public order in a bigger perspective, what Sir was telling. Then only when there is a support from the government. And that has happened in Telangana. Thank you.
Wow. You all heard of what wonders have happened in Hyderabad, in Telangana, but more so in Hyderabad part of it, the IT, the startup world. Many entrepreneurs would have visited. Some of us also went and saw it. The enabling environment is what is created by officers like the ADG from Telangana state and his officers. I think there are many lessons for all of us also to learn from it. Other states could also learn from all of this. And there are many states who are learning from this. Now, looking at the time, I'm going to kind of move to the next lot. But before that, there is one small thing that I want to mention. So here is what I'm going to do. A couple of comments, then I'll move to Sandeep ji. Sandeep ji would give his comments. Then we'll take a few questions from you. If you've written it, that's wonderful. If not, we'll see how we can pass on the mic and get it. About 10 minutes, if that's okay for the questions, we'll do that. But there's one thing consistent among all the three speakers who spoke so far, right? Each one of them understood the niti very well, the policy, but also ensured the kriti, the action. So niti along with kriti is something that's very consistent among all of them, the chairman, the ADG, the former CS, all of them ensured that we wish and hope there is a whole lot more of it happens and lot more of inspirations from such individuals among the administration, so that even more of those is what we get to see as people at large. But before I move to all of you to listen your questions, because I have lots of questions, but then there is a time limit, there are more sessions. Each one of them could hold the floor for a couple of hours, but the format is what we need to obey. And hence I move to Sandeep ji to get some of his comment, and then we'll come to you for questions.
Thank you. Well, since you are going to go to questions, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to share one experience. I'm not a policymaker, but I interface with the policymakers all the time. So I'm going to share one experience, and then, in fact, I'm going to ask Mr. Karir, Mr. Mahesh and Mr. Wagh a question based on my experience, And you told me earlier you want me to make some comments from my international experience, but I'm not going to go to any international experience. In fact, I'm going to talk about my experience with the Indian government in the center. Now, for last 30 years, I've been having interaction with the Indian government at the highest level. It's mostly Prime Minister's office and other high-level agencies of the government. In 30 years, in the course of this interaction, you have meetings. Normally, my meetings have been with either the minister, full secretary, or additional secretary. Additional secretary was the lowest. Now, I had two experiences. And on the basis of these two experiences, I want to ask you all a question. In 30 years, I've had so many meetings. We had so many different kinds of governments, from Narasimha Rao to Narendra Modi, different political parties, different personalities in the Prime Minister. In so many meetings, there hasn't been even a single meeting in 30 years in the Indian government at the highest echelon when the concerned minister or the concerned civil servant was delayed by even 1 minute in the meeting. If I had an appointment at 4 o'clock, the concerned minister or the concerned civil servant was always present at 4 o'clock. In 30 years, not even one experience of the Indian government. In fact, 2-3 times it so happened that the meetings were over lunch, and my flight from Mumbai to Delhi got delayed. And so the delay was on, not my part, but the flight. Yeah. So now I started going the previous day, because I don't trust the airline, but I trust our civil servants and I trust our leaders. So the second experience I had with our highest policy makers is that from day one when I started interacting with the policymaker, each and every policy suggestion I have made has been implemented at the highest level. In 30 years, each and every policy suggestion I made has been implemented, and the ministers and the senior civil servants have shown the most open mind and most promptness in implementing. Now today you say I have a certain reputation, but when I started I was 30 years old. And even when I was 30 years old, the Prime Minister would listen and take the implementation. Now, most of these were in the national security area, so I can't give you the concrete examples of what those incidents were. Now, if I have this experience, and this is my question, that in Delhi, in Prime Minister's office, Cabinet Secretariat, leadership of the military headquarters, if all those senior leaders, including ministers, military commanders, additional secretaries, for 30 years plus, they have the openness to implement every suggestion. They have the discipline to attend every meeting on the dot. Why my friends in Maharashtra are complaining that they don't have the same experience with the Maharashtra bureaucracy?
Okay, so just a quick response to that. You are talking about meeting the really top of the Indian government. You try to meet the top of the Maharashtra government, you will have the same experience. I am 100% sure about this. The Chief Minister of Maharashtra, if he gives a time, Mr. Fadnavis, he will be there. Mr. Ajit Pawar, if he gives you 11 o'clock, 5 minutes to 11, I'm sure his office will call up asking ki tum abhi tak pahunche kyun nahi. So, and the same goes. So when we are talking about a senior level in government, I believe the experience should be exactly the same. I don't see any change. The openness to taking suggestions also would fairly be, I think, common across states, across the government of India. Why there could be some differences, and that's because primarily the implementation parts are with the states, and mostly government of India works on policy. So sometimes it's easier for people to make policies, and then the implementation challenges come to the states at a later stage, and so that leads to some friction and that leads to some problems. So that's the one issue that I have. And sometimes I also feel that the requests for policy are not for creating a level playing field, but are for getting more and more incentives to that particular industry or to that particular sector. If the, and I feel very strongly that, industry representatives, when they ask for policy, that policy should not be for more and more freebies, more and more incentives, but mainly for providing a level playing field, for providing basic infrastructure as a given. I mean, nobody should have to ask, I am setting up this industry, I don't have to run around asking for the electricity connection or the water connection. Those things, the automation of all the basic requirements that an industry requires, that I think is priority. And if those are the type of things that are requested more for policy, then the focus on implementation also becomes better. The moment we ask for too many things, then there is dilution also, at the policy level as well as the implementation level, and that does lead to some problems.
I think with that, what we're going to do is I'm looking at time, because time is what we are discussing, so we won't delay for the next one. At least that's what we could do. I'm going to listen to 3 questions, and there are going to be 2 questions I could take. I know we are in Pune.
Let's take 3 questions, 1 for each of us.
Perfect. All right, so I'm overruled. There will be 3 questions. I'm going to listen to a little more than 3 questions and will take only 3 questions. I know we are in Pune. Each one of you are also capable of delivering 1 hour long lecture. Anyone who asks shorter question is what I'm going to take, right? So, all right, if there is a, so exactly. So if there is a lady raising hand first, it goes there. So it goes anywhere. So who has the mic, by the way? Unless I need to go down. Okay. Hey, इकडं पुढे याल तुम्ही आतमध्ये. हां, अच्छा. लाडकी बहीण लाडकी ताई तुम्ही जे म्हणाल त्यांना द्याल. आम्ही
Only
थांबू.
questions.
आदरान थांबू. Yes, yes, we can hear you. Sorry, not.
Hello, sir. It's me, Maheshwari. I'm from Vidyarthi Sahayak Samiti. Sir, the first thing is that as you had said, that policy is like a oxygen for our country. So I want to add one thing, that if the policy serve as an oxygen for our country, so the policymakers like you serve as like a tree which provides us oxygen for our country. So I'm really thankful of everyone among you. Sir, my question to you is that, being a student, I always feel that question, that what are the major challenges that an policymaker face, that every policymaker face. So can you please elaborate it in short?
Thank you. So this goes to Dr. Karir. The question is, what are the major challenges that a policymaker faces?
Okay, so let me just give you one single challenge. Obviously, we could talk, understanding the requirement of all stakeholders is the biggest challenge that the policymaker faces, because the policymaker, he or she, is not able to reach out to all those stakeholders, and the representatives of the stakeholders, or the people who, I'm not using representatives in terms of associations, but representatives in terms of people who come as intermediaries or as people who are putting in the request, they are not the same as the stakeholders are, and therefore this is the biggest challenge. Unless the policymaker is able to reach out to all stakeholders, discuss that policy, and then fine tune it to achieve the larger goals which have already been set by the highest government level at India. There is consonance between the policy, the objectives of the government, and the requirements of the stakeholders, then the policy is a good policy.
Thank you so much. That's great answer. I think the lady has already picked up this, so we'll give it. But just to keep a balance, then one of the gentlemen would get the question, third one. Yeah,
Yes,
please.
sir.
Sorry, the lady is asking the question. Please continue.
Okay. Thank you very much. Myself, Dr. Jayashree Pawar. I'm a professor in economics. I'm not asking you a question. I just gave you some variables, and I want you to relate those variables and how to get a solution on this. We are talking about policy. So NEP has been implemented. We are running in NEP 2. And we are again hearing about the semester-wise admissions, even semester-wise examinations. Then we are lacking in infrastructure, teacher-student ratio. Then laziness among the students. We are facing a big drop-off of students, backlog students.
Got it.
This is the thing actually we are facing being in educational institutions. And again, above all this funding to the
Professor,
any
got
kind
it.
of.
Got it. You said
Yes,
it very
sir.
well.
So
Thank
how
you so
to
much.
solve this? Is there any good policy to solve all these variables? Please, thank you.
So
Let me just take this later on. Let's get a couple of questions to the other people, and I'll come back to this before I close.
Sure. So Sachin, you could indicate the mic to wherever it goes. The director of the show would direct it.
There is a question with regards to one of the, yesterday one of the panelists shared an opinion saying that these ports may not actually help, and we need to look into shipbuilding and shipping industry. So is there any effort which is being done on that front?
Thank you.
Actually, we are talking about the two things. I mean, I have not heard the gentleman who told about all those things. See, we should not, confuse between these two things. Ports are very much needed. As far as building a shipping or shipbuilding is concerned, definitely that will add value to it. But we have to, while thinking about this, we have to also think in perspective. At present, other countries have huge capacity. Tonnage-wise, we are less than 1% or 1.5%. Yes, there should be some minimum capability with India, but we should not, for the sake of having some capacity building, we should not go for that, because competitive advantage is also one of the most important thing. In globalization, that plays a very important role. Where we are good at, we should do that, and then where other people are good at, we should take it from them. So we should have minimum capabilities, and Government of India is doing that. But only because we don't have that, and we should go for that, I don't think it is a wise idea. So I will say that port definitely we require, because we cannot outsource that to any country. But shipbuilding, it is important, but we should also think whether we are able to do that or not.
Thank you so much. The next question, if anyone has a question on the law and order part of it, we'll take it, because that's how we decided. So that gentleman has the mic. That will be the last question. My apologies to everyone who couldn't ask the question. Trust me, I know that all of you had a very good question. They have the responses. It's just the constraint of time. Please.
हॅलो सर, मी भागवत सर तुमचा मी खूप मोठा फॅन आहे. तर तुम्ही एक क्षेत्र
By the way, you're not, we all are with you.
तुम्ही हे क्षेत्र का निवडले आणि या क्षेत्रामधील भ्रष्टाचार कमी करण्यासाठी आपण काही योजना आखल्या आहेत का? कारण मला स्वतःला खूप विचित्र अनुभव आहे आणि या क्षेत्रामधील भ्रष्टाचार खूप मोठा आहे. तर या भ्रष्टाचार कमी करण्यासाठी आपण काही योजना आणू शकतो का, किंवा मी पण सजेशन देऊ शकतो? थँक्यू.
थँक्यू. थँक्यू.
सर एक मिनटं वेळ असेल तर बोलू का?
आपण नंतर ऑफलाईन बोलू.
बट
मी सांगतो या प्रश्नाचं उत्तर. मी तुमच्या प्रश्नाचं उत्तर सांगतो एका मिनिटात. मी एकदा सिनियर पोलीस IPS ऑफिसर्सच्या मीटिंगमध्ये बसलो होतो. आय वॉज इन अ मीटिंग विथ सिनियर IPS ऑफिसर्स, अँड there was a commissioner of police, and there were all other commissioners and additional DGP. And one of the persons there said that, he said, I have read 200-300 pages of what you have written on policy experiences of different countries. And he said, you forget about all these 200-300 pages. There is only one policy that the Singapore government had introduced. They said, if we can copy that, the whole country will change overnight. आणि तो भ्रष्टाचार वगैरे सगळं थांबून जाईल. And what is that policy Singapore government introduced? That if any politician, that is any cabinet minister or member of parliament, gives telephone instructions to a civil servant, and if that is revealed, that politician goes to jail. If he gives telephone instruction. And if any civil servant doesn't respond to a written request from a citizen within a certain stipulated period of time, that civil servant is held accountable by the minister concerned. So a politician cannot absolutely give any telephone instructions, and the civil servant must respond to every written instruction. If you have this rule, don't you think things will get cleaned up?
Thank you so much. I think I'm looking at time. It's 11:32. The sentiments are very well respected, by the way. Thank you so much for that. Among all of us,
I just needed to respond to that. So it's obviously there is a policy possible. We need to figure out that policy. Larger discussion and debate needs to happen. परंतु शिक्षकांचे पगार द्यायचे की मुलांना स्कॉलरशिपचे पैसे द्यायचे, या दोन मध्ये जर आपण व्यवस्थित ठरवू शकलो तर हे प्रश्न सुटू शकतील.
thank you so much. And any which way, I was about to say that I'm going to request Dr. Karir to have the final word apart from this, because I'm not going to conclude in any manner. So, okay, then I'll take that instruction and I'll try to do that. So, thank you so much. I think here is the interesting thing. There is a whole lot that can be discussed about public policy, the impact that the public policy has in enabling the environment. Some things are visible for us, some things are not even visible. What police does in the background, right, we wouldn't even know. What's happening in Wardwan Port with just 4 people in JNPA, what the chairperson has been able to do in trying to create something that will create manufacturing facilities for hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Maybe we are not able to see it, but that's the impact of the policy we'll get to see. And we're very, very fortunate that we could put this panel together. Thanks to Anandji, thanks to all of you, thanks to Sachinji. We're grateful to you for this treat, and I'm sure it's recorded. I would want to watch it again and again for sure. Thank you so much for the patient listening. Many thanks. I give it to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How was it? Then please give them a standing ovation. Big round of applause. I think we had the most enriching and enlightening session. And thank you, sir. You all the way you all have come. Just as a token of love and appreciation, we would like to felicitate you. I call on the stage Mr. Anand Ganu, who is the founder of Garje Marathi. Mr. Anand Govindaluri, who is head of Govind Capital, he has all the way come from Singapore. And Mr. Prasad Pradhan, who works with Government of India on policy issues. So he's also here. So I request three of them to felicitate. Begin with Nitin Karir, sir. टाळ्या वाजवा ना, टाळ्या कमी नाही पडल्या पाहिजे. Mahesh Bhagwat sir. Anand ji, you can do the honor to Mahesh Bhagwat sir. So we have two Anands. So Anand Govindaluri will felicitate Unmesh Wagh sir. Unmesh Wagh sir, please. Prasad ji, you can honor Sandeep Waslekar sir. Last but not the least, Prashant Girbane sir, thank you very much for conducting such a powerful session. So give a big round of applause to Prashant Girbane ji, who is the guiding force to all of us. He is the DG of MCCIA. So please. So I request Karir sir, please felicitate Prashant ji. So we'll have one group photograph. Just a quick 10 minutes tea break, and then we will assemble here after 10 minutes. Please, thank you.